Frame data is something that pro players in fighting games use a lot to their advantage. The power of a character determines by how many of their moves have good advantage on hit or block to allow the players to keep momentum and pressure on their opponents. The problem with frame data is that it looks too complicated for beginners with all those plus and minus numbers and makes them kinda dislike the professional side of fighting games and think of it as too try-hardy because it's like solving math problems, which we know most gamers hate, including myself. So I'm here to tell you the easiest way to understand frame data and use it to be a better player and use your character better and more efficient. There are two ways to use frame data. First is to use it on someone who is blocking. This is what is known as using block strings to keep the pressure on a defensive opponent. If you use moves that have frame advantage on block, you can prevent your opponent from doing any move because it's always your turn and they will get counter hit if they try to interrupt you. This process is also known as frame trap because you are baiting your opponent with a move that has advantage on block. And if they're not familiar with your character and think after block they can hit you, aka punish you, your next move after their block comes faster and you hit them with the counter hit. Let me give you an example.
How's this? Shoryuken! Coming at ya! Eat this! Shoryuken!
Ken's heavy dragon lash is +1 on block, and Jamie's fastest move is his crouch light punch, which is 4 frames. Now Ken's light shoryuken has 5 frames of startup, and since Ken already has 1+ frame, they will trade.
Ken! Shoryuken! How's this? How's this? Shoryuken! Coming at ya! Eat this! Shoryuken!
So how to know what move has advantage or disadvantage? Go to training mode, then pause and go to screen display settings, and then go to frame meter and turn it on. Now when you press any button, you can see a lot of numbers are showing. I'm not gonna say most of these numbers do not matter, but to not make things more complicated, all you need to focus is the first and the last one, the startup and recover. If you've heard people using terms like plus frame or that move is minus, they are referring to the move's advantage on hit or block. All you need to do is to put your dummy on block and press all of your normal and special moves against them and see what are their frame advantage on block, and remember the moves that are plus on block and use them as your block string. But on the side note, do not discard every minus move. The fastest move in SF6 has 4 frames of startup, unless there is a special move that's faster, but I don't think there is one. So if your move has -1 to -3 frames, it's still safe to use on block, but you better not press anything after they block, cause now it's their turn. As you can see, even though these moves are minus on block, I cannot be punished, because they are below -4. But if I try to press any button after my opponent blocked, I'll get counter hit. Unless I do an invincible. Ken's level 2 super is not invincible. Using frame traps and dealing with them requires you to understand your opponent's habits. For example, what if your opponent is always playing safe and right here he doesn't hit any button and keeps blocking? Then you made a big mistake by throwing a dragon punch, and now you're gonna get a big punish combo. Or what if they just throw an invincible move during block strings? You don't know, and just one scenario does not work on everybody. So using frame traps is getting into mind games part of fighting games, which is complicated for a beginner, because you need to get to a level of a mastery in the game and throw every rule and logic you've learned and play by your own rules. Tell me in the comments if you want me to talk about that side of fighting games. Anyway, the second way of using frame data is in combos. Linking or connecting moves into each other is a necessity if you want to do combos on a grounded opponent. It's very simple. If your move's recovery is +4, then you can connect any move that has 4 frames or less startup. Alright, now let me show you how that combo works. Ken's standing medium punch has 5 frames of startup, and it's +4 on hit. His crouching light punch has 4 frames of startup, and it's +5 on hit. So basically you should be able to connect these two moves into each other. Now a standing light punch after dry brush is +8 on hit, and crouching heavy punch has 8 frames of startup, so technically you should be able to connect these two moves into each other. Now see the full combo. Sometimes you have the plus frame, but your second move cannot reach the opponent, so when you want to practice your character's links, you need to consider the range of their moves as well. If you want a more in-depth video about links and how to do them in Street Fighter, you can click on this video right here. I will see you in that video. Until then, keep fighting.